Hello everybody, welcome into the Knack, Scotty Gange, and I'm so excited to have Sue Horton here. So first off, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Scotty. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
This looks awesome.
Yeah, you got the fried chicken sandwich.
I did.
Okay, and
Yum.
it's my tradition, I get whatever you get.
Okay.
So we're gonna go taste test first, and then we're gonna dive into lunch.
All right.
Should we cheers it?
Cheers it.
All
yes.
right, love that.
Oh.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. That's what I'm telling you, very good. And it surprises you, and that's good. The
That's
Knack.
terrific.
Thank you again for hosting us. This will be the last one of the summer. So, Sue, for you, we saved the best for last, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm honored.
So
And it's a shame that it'll be the last for the summer.
I know.
How fast
maybe
has this gone,
we can sneak by and grab another, but yeah.
All right,
it's the fun thing for me in all this, and got to be with Matt Troop, Zach Britton, Eddie McCabe, Tanner Murray, and Max Troiani, is getting to hear all their stories and getting to hear kind of more about them away from, the diamond. And the rule is always no talk in baseball, so yes,
okay.
so, or talk as little baseball as possible. I know
All
that's
right.
what we're doing out here, but you get to know the people, and so
Okay.
you are 25 years to this year with the Firebirds, if I'm correct.
I think that's probably right. I was kind of involved in the 80s, but I didn't have a lot to do organizationally. I just knew the people and, was friends with everybody. And so I started getting a lot more hands-on mid-90s, 95, 96. I started doing the book in 96 and been pretty much since then nonstop, yeah.
So what's been that, how's that been for you? Since the 80s to 2019, here we are today. What's something like the biggest difference you've noticed?
The biggest difference is probably just the complexity of the league and the rules and regulations and the paperwork and how you go about maintaining your roster and the record keeping. So much more is automated, and then social media has had a huge impact. Roster size keeps going up. I don't know how much more we can go before we totally run out of beds. But it's you have to keep up with because the competition's hard on our heels. So you keep up and you make it better, and more professional, and just do the best job you can so these guys have a great experience.
Yeah, and I think they really, talking with everybody just loves this, so it really is a cool experience.
I think that's true. I think everybody really, has a good year when they're, even if you don't meet your own expectations performance-wise, I think most people, huge majority, go back to school better players, more mature as individuals and players, and so it's just it's a great experience.
Yeah, definitely the maturity aspect, I think. Whether these guys go 0 for 44 or 43 for 44 at the plate or something like that, regardless, they're making relationships, living somewhere new with a host family, which might be kind of weird and different for guys. But it's fun to see that, that I've gotten to see from just, 43 games or 44 tonight, but I know you've seen that for several years more than I have, but it's really cool to see.
And managing their time, disciplining themselves, getting enough rest. Some guys are having summer school, they've got to make time to get the courses done. So it's a good experience overall because they're not in the same controlled environment that they're in at school. So.
There was an article in the Cape Cod Times, and it was about you as a kind of a trailblazer of this league for women like you and Judy Walden, the Scarophile, and it was really cool. And I was wondering, for you, if you can kind of tell me more about, your struggles, I guess, maybe in pushing into the league, or just your process of getting into the league, as I know it was really heavily run by men when you were entering the league, a couple decades ago?
Well, there were a fair amount of women. By the time I got in, Judy was already president at that time. There were other women who were officers. Of course, Mrs. E, Barbara Ellsworth, and YD, Mary, over in Harwich. And we've seen more and more of that. I think the gender thing in Judy's position, yes, because she's dealing with a lot of outside entities who may be looking at her askance. at the community level, at the our level, people are just happy somebody's doing the job. Because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of commitment, and people have lives. They don't always have the time that it's going to take, and it's taken more and more time through the years. So I suppose there probably was some of that in the background, but I just really didn't think about it all that much. I stayed away from the things that I knew I didn't belong doing, and leave that to the professionals, like recruiting. I mean, I never inserted myself in that. I would have been just plain flat stupid to do that. So
you didn't know where the guys were.
No, and the coaches do that. That's why we pay them. That's why we have them, to put the best team on the field. So I just trusted them. You get great people like Kelly Nicholson, and you just sit back and dot the I's and cross the T's, and that's what you got to do.
This is a league that takes a lot out of you and just a lot of time. And you said, there's happy somebody's doing it, and you've got a life too, away from the Firebirds. How do you balance that? I mean, I know it's hours and hours, especially in the summer, but I mean, it's really a year-round deal and getting ready for the season. So how do you balance that?
It is. That's hard.
All that work.
That's definitely hard to do. You've got to keep in mind all your other commitments that you have, and try to balance it the best you can. And I'm fortunate that my mate was involved before I was, so he knows full well what it takes. He was treasurer and business manager for over 30 years before he finally ran up the white flag and Steve Guerin took over. So he understands, especially in the summer, what's going to take place, and so it helps to have that support system where somebody isn't, griping. But you're not, that you didn't go to the dump the way you were supposed to, or you forgot to pick up milk or whatever,
Your relationship with Kelly Nicholson, I know, is one that's gone back, 19 years now, ever since he came to
Yes.
How's that been? I mean, he's an amazing guy.
He is amazing. He is amazing. We are so fortunate, so blessed that he was available at, it just fell into it, I mean, the other guy that was supposed to come that year got picked for a different job, for, a promotion at his school, and that opened the door for Kelly, and it was
kind of just like a
luckiest day this franchise ever had. It was just wonderful, and I mean, he's just so respected around the league. When he talks, people listen. He's just, his commitment to the team, to the league, to the integrity of the game, and making sure that we just have the best guys here, not just players, but people. So yeah, we're extremely fortunate.
And I know there's a lot of energy that's got to be exuded by you. Lots of jobs that you've got to do, and just being the general manager, kind of running the organization in that sense. And through the years of doing that, what is something that you're still trying to improve on? Because I know you've done it for a number of years, and I would think outwardly from watching you've got it all down. You got everything down, and it's all just easy peasy, ready to go. But I've got to think there's something.
I hate filing paperwork, so I'm way behind on filing paperwork. And there ought to be a magic way to keep the clubhouse cleaner.
Yeah.
But this airspace, whatever. But no, I mean just keeping track of, and the older I get, the harder that is. I really have to employ some extra tricks to make sure I don't inadvertently forget something, so that can be a little difficult sometimes, yeah.
What stood out to you most, whether it be a relationship you've had with a player, a coach, or anything in your time with the Birds?
Oh, I think that's true. I think the relationships are really huge, and watching these young men come here and their aspirations and how hard they work, and then watching them go on. I'm very blessed that I was born and raised here. I mean, that doesn't happen to a lot of people. And so I've always felt that you give back to your community. You make sure that you try to leave things a little better for the next generation, give somebody a hand up, whatever. So, if I can play a small part in somebody's step to the next level, then I'm glad to do that. And I'm not looking for credit, trust me. I'm happy to stay in the background, and I don't care if anybody knows my name, but just watching these guys go on, and some of the guys that stayed with me and seeing them in their careers now after baseball, it's just so exciting. I'm just so happy for them. And we've just had some wonderful guys come through here, so it's been a treat all the way through.
I know you would never take any credit like that. You're too humble of a woman to be taking credit, but there's a lot that's deserved in your role and position and time with the Firebirds. But when you're improving things and helping the next generation of players, whether they stayed with you or on the Firebirds, how does that make you feel just internally?
Oh, it's just very gratifying. Absolutely, yeah. It just you feel like you just made a good contribution, that it's all been worthwhile, and you didn't just sit around watching TV or taking the easy way out. You challenged yourself a little bit to do what had to be done, and all stepped up where maybe somebody else couldn't, or whatever. So yeah.
I know every season and every day of the season isn't, it's not easy doing everything. Some days are easier than others. Firebirds are winning 12-0, it's a better day, something like that. But I would like to believe that's kind of what motivates you to push forward, each and every day and each and every year, going through all of it.
No, you want this to be a really revered organization in town, something that everybody appreciates and values, and understands the significance that it has for the town, the contribution that it makes to quality of life, economic, all the positive things that happen between little kids, the community and these players. And, I think by and large, we have wonderful community support. And here we are, these folks inviting us to do this.
Yeah.
And
hosting us on a busy day like today.
And hosting us on a busy summer day like this, absolutely, yeah. So, it's kind of funny. I mean, there's probably some people still alive that resent that it's a collegiate team now instead of a town team, but they're few and far between. I think most people do pretty much understand what we're doing here, and they're rooting for these kids all the way. Yeah.
So the way I see the Firebirds today is a proud, team that represents its town with players from across the country. And it's kind of cool to talk to these guys and say, especially guys from bigger cities in California. And how cool is it, to represent a small town? And hey, I've never gotten that opportunity. It's kind of cool to have, to have this be my kind of hometown, be the hometown guy for, 2.5 months in the summer. Was it always like that, or what was it like in the 80s and 90s? How would you describe it then, from the way I described?
By the 80s, it was pretty good. When I first, John Castleberry Coach Jack Donahue, who was Nauset's AD and baseball coach, he had it for a short time, and then John Castleberry came in, and that was a great transition. And John started, he started the clinic. John was always looking for ways to knit the community and the team together a little more closely, and he did a great job with clinic. And he was also very gregarious, like Kelly is, and made friends easily. And so the town takes a lot more ownership in what's going on, and really and the talking about the players too. I mean, so many of them they play at great programs, but they don't get the fans.
Right.
So I remember having a kid from Northeastern who's a hot ticket, and he played hockey as well as baseball. But so he was playing first base, and at Northeastern, nobody showed up, or nobody much. Yikes. And he turned and looked over his shoulder, and here's all these people on the hill, and he was like, "Oh my God!"
It's kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was like, "Whoa!" I better step up my game, and So yeah, I think that is a surprise to some kids that we get the turnout that we do, the fans that we do, and the fans are really good. We don't get fans that rag on kids.
Yeah.
Some franchises you do get a little bit of that.
Everybody's just
They'll
going
rag,
Firebirds no matter
they're
what.
positive. They understand that all those kids, any of those kids, could have been on our team too.
Yeah.
And so they're in support of those kids and their goals, and they appreciate the excellence of the baseball. So they'll cheer a good play that the opposition makes, things like that.
They could still be on the team, like a guy like Jacob Hurtubise, who was playing against the Firebirds
exactly,
at the beginning of the season.
like Jacob. Yeah, definitely. So, we appreciate that our fans are such a positive, welcoming group for other teams coming in, and we don't get some of the obnoxiousness that you see some other places. But
And has it always been that way?
pretty much, yeah, I think so. It's always been that this is a real positive environment for people to play in. Yeah,
So
definitely.
I know, like today, the Cape Cod Baseball League, and for everybody that's followed the Firebirds all season long, they know it's the best of the best. The stars of tomorrow shine tonight.
The stars of tomorrow shine tonight. That was a phrase that was coined by Ed Mooney, and Ed Mooney did the yearbook for many years.
I noticed he has a sign up in the press box.
There's a sign in the press box, and he was the one that gave it the name The Bird's Nest. And it really was a bird's nest. The original press box was not entirely closed off. It was smaller, and you talk about a pizza oven. That place really got hot. So, for ventilation, all around the eaves there was a space of maybe 2 or 3 inches, and it was covered with chicken wire to keep big critters out. But a lot of the birds would get in there, so you'd hear it was literally a bird's nest. You'd hear birds all night long, and and early in the season when they had a nest and young, they'd really let you have it. They were not happy that you were in there, and then you go in the spring to clean up, and the countertop was unbelievable after having the birds in there in the early spring.
It sounds like my
now
my
we have
night
osprey.
It sounds like my night when I sat under the osprey.
Yeah, you don't want to sit near
No.
the osprey. That's not a good idea.
If you ever go to the Firebirds game, it's the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Don't sit under the third base pole with the osprey.
the big pole. You don't want to be near the big pole where the osprey are.
That was
not
a
a
bad
good
night
idea.
for me.
Ned Munthey, the Brewster GM, got it the other night.
Really?
Yeah. He was covered. It's like, oh boy.
The worst part for me was I had to make the walk from there all the way around to the bathroom out in right field to change my shirt. And I was trying to just be kind of low, and I could see in the corner of my eyes everyone going,
Yep.
oh, this is so embarrassing.
Yep. Oh. I know. It's. I don't know what took the birds so long to find us. Those lights have been. Well, we've always had lights since the late 70s.
Because it's warm, right? That's what I would think.
But those poles have been in place since 2000.
Really?
And it's only been 3 years now that the birds have been there. It's like, what took you so long?
That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny.
So I know that Eldridge Park has changed a lot. Like you just said, the bird's nest, the new scoreboard, all that. When you first entered, what did Eldridge Park look like?
Well, it had the old lights. They were wooden poles, southern pine.
Really?
And over the years, when we replaced them, you could look at the grain and it was actually torqued. The wind over the years had twisted the poles. So there was that. There was the original press box, which a guy named Phil Bergson built. Russ Ford, who sadly is gone now, I mean, I wish everybody that played here had the opportunity to meet Les Ford, and the interns too. Just an extraordinary gentleman, and the life force behind this team. Hauled us out of a lot of financial holes. Just a really amazing man. And then, of course, the other fellow was Charlie Moore, whose name is on the band shell, and our awards, 2 of our awards are named for him and his father. So even back, once we became collegiate and the modern era started in the mid-'60s, there were always people in town that stepped up and opened up their wallets and said, this is a gem. We got to do what we can to preserve this. So, the old dugouts were just concrete block with a wooden roof, and as the rosters expanded, people were almost
bigger dugouts.
Sitting on each other's laps. We can't have this. We've got to get bigger dugouts. So, when we did the hockey improvement, and that was 2010. That was huge. That really, really stepped up the facility big time. The new press box went in, and I think that was 2003 when we built that new press box. And Mark Hosfeld, who was president of the team back then, he and Billy Edwards. And I don't know if you've met Billy, Barefoot Billy.
No.
Billy's a nail banger by trade, and so he and Billy and Mark's son built that thing. It's built like a tank. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, and having sports turf specialties come every year and do the infield, laser grading. They bring in 30 plus tons of material. And do the mounds, the catcher's box, bullpens, everything. That takes us to the next level as well. That we have that level of playing surface that's really equivalent to a minor league team. It's really excellent.
So how about you? Away from the Firebirds, you said this has been your home for your entire life. Really. How is that? Your early years, kind of before you joined the Birds. What was the life of Sue Horton like?
Well, I grew up here, went to Nauset, I went to UMass Amherst.
So you went to Nauset Regional High School, where Eldridge Park is? Really?
That's right. Yeah, when I graduated, the middle school was still a high school.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't until the early 70s that they built the campus in Northeast Am.
No way.
Yeah. So.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
And it was, at that time, it was 7 through 12 there. So it was junior, senior. So, and it's just such a tremendous school system. I mean, that high school is, we do a little scholarship for 2 kids, Nauset grads every year. And reading the applications and looking at their transcripts and the courses they take and the curriculum that's available, it's tops on the Cape, and really one of the best schools in Massachusetts. It's excellent.
So what was it like growing up here?
But it was great. It was great. I mean, and this was before you had video games or anything like that,
No iPhones or anything?
No, didn't have none of that stuff. None of that
so
stuff.
what'd you do?
I know, exactly. We watched Dick Clark, an American Bandstand, or The Edge of Darkness, or some silly thing like that.
Or went outside, I don't know.
But the school was great. I mean, you got involved in things, and that kept you busy. That kept your time structured, and then other than that, you went home and you did your homework, and that was it. But no, it was, to be able to grow up here, especially back in those days when the population was so much less.
Yeah.
And you knew everybody pretty much, and it was really a special time. I was very, very lucky that I could do that.
I think you know everybody here. When we were ordering, you said hi to the kid in the back making the burgers.
Oh yeah, he was a bad kid.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, his mom still coordinates she's still the
Really?
bad kid wrangler. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. John, he's going to Louisville. Very exciting
He's
for him.
going next Sunday, we heard.
Yeah, he's going to play hockey.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
So how's that
Yeah.
sense of community like for you? I mean, you know, John, who's out cooking burgers, who's going to Louisville next week. You know, everyone with the birds. I bet if
Yep.
you go across the street, you'll know somebody in there too.
Oh, probably so. But I mean, I don't know nearly as many as I used to. And I was involved in town committees for a while. I did some volunteering on various town boards, and I don't do that anymore. So I've lost touch a little bit with the day-to-day of the town and what's going on. But that's okay. You know, I'm happy to spend the time that I have available, you know, doing this instead.
With the birds.
Yep.
The coolest thing you told me was how special it is for you to give back. And I think, you know, everybody can find that ability, whoever they are, to give back to something they care about. There's 3 ways I like to put, you know, a passion or something like that, you know, the reason for somebody's work. First one is they love it, which I know you love the Firebirds. You know, on the surface, you love going to the games, hanging out with Kelly Nicholson, you know, doing that work. You're passionate about making the Firebirds a better team and giving back too, and, you know, being a positive influence in this community that raised you. And then the third one, which is where you really get into it and really find your meaning in life, is a higher purpose, where, you know, it's not about you, it's not even about the person next to you, it's about something much more. I was wondering for you, in your years with the birds, what do you think your higher purpose is in working with the birds, if you can pinpoint something out of that?
I don't know. I never really thought about it that much, other than just opening a door, just being helpful and welcoming, and just trying to make just a small difference, a positive difference in somebody's life. Yeah. And you know, not thinking too much about it other than that. Just, you know, hoping that their life's a little better because of it. Definitely.
My favorite question to ask, and as we're finishing our fried chicken sandwich, which was very good, you got the vanilla milkshake too, and it's good. Huh? Yes.
Wicked good.
Wicked good. That's
Wicked
what I'm
good.
talking about. That's an East Coast talk right there. My favorite way to end this is always, you know, you pick for you, I ask if there's a phrase, a quote, a life lesson, something like that you think has shaped your life, or you look to define your life after, whether it be a 5-word quote or something that happened, you know, 25 years ago.
Oh.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Wow.
Normally I warn everybody.
Not a big
but
philosopher, my goodness. I don't know. Just make a difference, I guess. Yeah. You know, it's funny because Kelly does the same thing with the kids. You know, one of the things, you know, in the hallway, there's illustrations for every point he wants to make, and one of them is a tombstone, and it says R.I.P. on it, and Kelly says, "What do you want to be remembered for? For your time here?" And so yeah, I guess that that I just wanted to give back to my community and make a difference, be a positive force. Yeah.
That's amazing. This is so honest. That really is amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Sue.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We saved the best for last.
Yeah.
And in my thought process, or my belief, you are the MVP of the Firebirds. Not this year, but every year.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And for everybody on our side, thank you.
It's a lot of people that make this happen.
Yeah.
And I would never be one to claim more credit than anybody else, because there's just some tremendously hardworking and dedicated people that make this thing happen, and couldn't do it without each and every one of them. So, and they've taken the load off me. I used to have to do a lot more than I do now. I'm grateful I don't have to do as much as I used to do. And I'm really grateful that they pick up and do what has to be done. So, yeah, it's a great team effort.
It really is. I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much. A special thank you to the Knack for hosting this entire interview
Absolutely.
series.
Cheers.
You're going to finish your shake.
Yes.
And enjoy a great rest of the day. So
yes.
Cheers
yes.
to that. Thanks again.
Thank you, Scotty. A pleasure.